Welcome to your mini sitting hip flexor workout. Okay, it's kind of a misnomer. We're not actually going to work your hip flexors. We're going to try to tell them to turn off, and we're going to use this time in sitting to work something else. Because if you're like the average person, you have to spend some time in sitting. Now, I'm not going to recommend you do this in the driver's seat. Make sure you're in the passenger seat, but this little series is perfect for car trips, a tiny break at your desk if you can't actually get up and move around, or on the plane if you want to look like a crazy person. I have looked like a crazy person. You should join me in the whole crazy person thing. Okay, first thing we're going to work on is you've got to turn off the front of your hips. You've got to get these hip flexors to stop holding tension and working for everything. So I want you to lean back in your chair, relax, and feel right in the front of your hips. So find your hip bones, just like you would stick your hands in your pocket. All right, so feel right there. I want it to be soft and squishy. You can pinch it if you want, move it around, so super soft and squishy. Then I want you to try to sit up toward the edge of your chair and still feel it be soft and squishy. Now while we're here, I want to take a mindfulness second, and I want you to feel your sits bones. So those little bones that you sit on, okay? Does it feel like they are sitting evenly? Or does it feel like one is maybe pulled under a little bit and maybe a little more fleshy in the way between you and the chair? If that's the case, if you feel like they're not completely even and you feel like maybe one is a little bit further out than the other, or maybe one feels like it's a little tucked under, grab your bottom and pull it open, all right? You can pull open both if you want. That will open the bottom of your pelvis. It's going to help turn your hip flexors off. It's going to help those glutes not clench. It's going to be really great. So make sure when you're sitting, you actually feel that you're sitting on your sits bones. We're going to get into all kinds of how you should sit and all that kind of stuff, but not right now. Now we're going into your little exercise series. Okay, so here, hip flexors are relaxed. That's key. Then we're going to work on turning on your inner thighs. You can grab a sweatshirt, a rolled up towel roll. It doesn't actually matter what you use, but just keep in mind, the smaller it is, the harder it's going to be. And everybody's like, where did you get that nifty little ball? I got it from the dollar bin at Target. It's not on Amazon, all right? Dollar bin at Target. And then this one I got from the drugstore for $3. Okay, so super fancy equipment here. All right, smaller's going to be harder, bigger's going to be easier. If you're somewhere, just roll up your jacket, sweatshirt, towel. Doesn't matter. You don't have to go purchase a super fancy ball. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Place the ball between your knees, and then place your hands on your inner thighs, and then give me a gentle squeeze. Do you feel the muscles in your inner thighs contracting, or do they still feel soft and squishy? Okay, good. Now, place your hands on your hip flexors. Now give me another gentle squeeze. Do you feel your hip flexors working, or do you feel your hip flexors relaxing? All right. If you feel your hip flexors like Sarah, they just will not let go, scoot back in your chair and lean back a pinch again, and then squeeze. All right. Can you get them to let go now? All right. See if that works. So try moving around, try different positions, try sitting on the edge, try leaning back. All right. So if you got to be stuck in a chair, that's not to say you can't wiggle around. Of course, if you're in the car, seatbelts. All right. Seatbelts. Don't sit on the edge. Okay. So safety first. Okay, so hip flexors are nice and relaxed. I want you to work on squeezing. So here, I want you to give me some squeezes where you hold for a second or two and then you release. The important thing we're timing here is working on no hip flexor contracting. Then, if you want to make it a little bit fancy, you can bring it into breathing. You can inhale. And if you're in the back of your chair, you can feel that inhale on your back. Remember that umbrella and that broken side of that umbrella? So we really want to get back body expansion. So inhale into your back. Relax everything on that inhale. Pelvic floor relaxes down. Hip flexors relax. Everybody relaxes. And then exhale from your abs and squeeze at the same time. All right, so inhale. Back into the chair, exhale, squeeze those abs, inner thighs fire. Now, if you are like every single patient that has ever walked in my door, I guaranteed your hip flexors and your quads contracted big time for that. So So this is going to take some mental effort to tell these suckers to turn off. You are not going to get this the first time. You probably won't get the back breathing into the chair the first time or the second time or the third time. And you probably won't get these hip flexors to turn off the first, second, or third time. But that's why you have to keep working at it. That's why we're changing how your body is firing so that your body's automatic response is not hip flexors, hip flexors, hip flexors. All right, we've got to give it a different automatic response. So let's run through this one again. Inhale, back of the chair. Feel that expand into the back of the chair. Exhale from your abs. Like you're exhaling from your deep abs all the way up. Squishing all that air out. And as you squish the air out, gently squish the ball. So everybody is squishing out. Hip flexors are staying super relaxed, okay? Nobody is firing here. All right, got it? So soft and squishy. Inner thighs squeezing as you squish all the air out. All right, so repeat that 4 or 5 times. But since you're doing such deep breathing with that and really squishing out all the air you can possibly squish out until you feel those abs burn, then you're probably only going to want to do a set or 2, maybe 3 at the most, because I don't want you getting dizzy. All right, so play around with that. See if you can turn off the hip flexors when you squeeze, and then see if you can time it with breathing. Then we're going to turn on the iliacus muscle just a little bit, and we're going to work into a little bit of hip internal rotation, but we're going to be pulling the hip back in the socket. So this guy, one of my favorite muscles for helping to relieve some of the stress off of the psoas and take some tension off of your hip flexors and give your pelvis some more stability. So once again, bigger the ball, easier it is. Okay, so if you got something tiny and you're like complete failure at this exercise, don't worry. Okay. All right, so go ahead and give me that squeeze. So you have to get down the first exercise first, because if you cannot squeeze the ball without your hip flexors firing, there's no way you're going to be able to do this exercise. All right, so squeeze and then gently pull a leg back and then come back to resting. Squeeze, gently pull a leg back and then come back to resting. So what you're working on is you're working on moving, feeling that femur, feeling your hips suck into the socket, and then feeling the other one suck into the socket. All right, so we're not doing a whole lot of shifting back and forth with our legs, and we're not doing a whole lot of shifting back and forth with our trunk. It's a very small movement, and you may only be able to think about moving right now. You may be, as soon as you start to drag that leg back and feel that inner thigh squeeze and feel that hip go into the socket, you may immediately turn on your hip flexors when you start doing that. So that's what you're going to have to work through, is telling your body what to do. You are in charge of your muscles. All right, it might not feel like that. It's kind of like parenting a 2-year-old. All right, it might not feel like you're in charge sometimes, but I promise you, you are in charge, okay? So you are in charge of your muscles. It just might take a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of work for you to make that connection and get them to fall in line and work like you want them to. Okay, so gentle squeeze, draw back in the socket. I'm literally taking my femur, taking my leg and moving it back into the socket. This is going to feel a little weird, but you can do it. Okay, and squeeze and move back. Keep your feet firmly on the ground. And you're just going to work through some of these, working on no hip flexors. It's a small little mini motion. Remember, we're just utilizing our time. This is a mini sitting exercise. There are better exercises to do than these in sitting. But if you gotta sit, you might as well, feel great when you get out of the car, okay? So this one, if you have any SI joint pain at all, back pain from sitting too much, this is such a great thing to do, the squeezing of the hip flexors. Your back is gonna feel so good when you get up. You're gonna be like, wow, that was amazing. All right, still not an excuse to sit all day, all right? But let's get the right things firing. Okay, so give that one a shot. You can also time that with the exhale if you want. So inhale. Back body, exhale, squish the abs, squeeze the ball, gently draw in. And you're probably going to feel your pelvic floor kick in a little bit here. You're going to feel your abs really work. So inhale, back into the chair, exhale, squeeze that ball in. Okay, so that will make your hips feel fabulous. And if something goes wrong, if you do that and you're like, oh, my hip flexors are so much tighter and oh, my back doesn't feel great, go back to just the squeezing, because that's telling me that somebody is kicking in that's not supposed to. So work on the squeezing for a little while. Work on just simply squeezing and breathing. Don't rush it, all right? You don't have to get to every advanced level of every exercise next week, okay? You can take a little bit of time for your body to learn and adapt. Okay, last one, let's get those glutes, all right? So I'm gonna have you sit here, tall, string through the back of your head, ribs stacked over your pelvis, so make sure you're not arching back. And if you're on the edge of your chair, make sure you're not having, your posture is not too good, okay? Because that's just gonna turn on those back muscles and it's gonna ruin everything. So I want a little bit of a forward lean, just a pinch, so your ribs are stacked over your pelvis, your core is engaged. Then here, you're going to squeeze open. Okay, so this one can be very challenging for getting those hip flexors out of it, and it takes a lot of practice. So if you squeeze open, and you feel like, wow, my hip flexors are on fire, what I want you to think about doing is move your feet out a pinch wider, and then I want you to just hold here and just hold. Exhale, try to relax, see if you can get those hip flexors to let go. If that doesn't work, scoot to the back of the chair again. Give yourself some support. If you don't have to support your core, if you don't have to support this big heavy trunk on top of those hips, then your hip flexors can take a little break. So that tells me that your core strength is not quite where we want it to be. So you'll just need to continue working on that. And then here, I just want you to open, no hip flexors, soft and squishy, even if you have to grab those suckers and pick them up and pinch them. All right, tell them not to work. Okay, and you can work through this and think about those glutes working, and I can feel this in my bottom. Okay, so hopefully you can feel it in your bottom too. So you're just gonna squeeze those legs open. So this is like doing a simple clam, but in sitting, getting those glutes to fire, getting them to work, and just go until they're tired. I mean, you can do 10, 15, 20, 25, depending on the thickness of your band. If you have a really thick band, don't open as far. If you have a thin one, you can open a little further. But just don't push while you're working those hip flexors, because then all you're doing is working your problem more, and you're gonna get up and your hip flexors are gonna feel worse. The best way to approach this is to alternate if you can. I know if you're in an airplane, you're gonna look super silly. So what you can do if you're in an airplane is you can simply use your hands and you can push those knees open against your hands, and that way you won't look like a total crazy person. But you know what? If you look like a total crazy person on an airplane, take a picture of it and tag me in it, because I want to know. And I want to cheer you on, which I totally have to do now the next time I get on an airplane. All right, so we will do it together, and then we can start a movement of crazy people on airplanes. I love it. All right, so push out on the band, or you can push out on your hands if you're in a place where you don't have a band. And then you can alternate between squeezing and pushing. So you can go round robin through these exercises. Get a set with the ball, get a set pulling back, get a set with the band. Do 2 or 3 sets. Really get those inner thighs, those adductors to work, really get those glutes to work, and tell those hip flexors to let go. And then I guarantee when you get up, your hips are gonna feel amazing, and you're gonna stand up and you're gonna be like, wow, I can just stand up and walk freely and my back doesn't hurt. All right, so give this a try. Utilize that time in the car, and hopefully you will have happier hip flexors because of it.